was just driving along here. It was a beautiful day. Had my window open, had this stereo on, and when I got up here almost to the stop sign, this small white plane, at the time, that's what I thought it was, went over top of me. It was so smooth, and it just glided right over me, just like that. And then I ducked, and when I looked up again, then it was the spoiler, which is what I call it, and it was tipped like this so I could really see the spoiler, and then it just banked to the right and went over and went down behind those trees. We got to watching it on TV, and they kept saying that it was a large plane, like a 757, and I was like, no. What I saw was no jet. You know, that would have blown me off the road if it went over me, you know, that close. I said, that wasn't it. So, like I said, about 11:30 that night, the FBI came, wanted to talk to me. They kept asking me how big the plane was. I said the plane, you know, it was small, wasn't much bigger than my van that I saw, and that it went over top of me. And he says, you don't know what a 757 looks like. And I said, you know, don't be condescending to me. You know, if you don't want to believe me, that's fine. But what I saw, I thought I should report. And you ought to know there was something else in the air at the same time this was going on. And you want to make sure maybe it was ours and not somebody else's. And then that's when he did seem to get a little nicer. Told me that it was a white Learjet. Someone was taking pictures. I said, before the crash? And he says, well, we got to go. And that was the end of it.
In my mind, you know, the possibility that Flight 93 was shot down, you know, is an incredible story. But on the other hand, I think in the minds of a lot of media people, TV producers, etc., this story that emerged instead of heroism by the passengers is a remarkable story. You know, you know, certainly it's been the basis for 2 best-selling books so far. It's, you know, was featured on Dateline, NBC, and some of these other news magazine shows several times over. You know, I'm sure, and you know, I hate to be so crass in referring to September 11th, but I'm sure the ratings for those shows, you know, were, you know, I'm sure those were some of the most watched news magazine shows of the year. And so then I think as journalists, you know, unfortunately, it's kind of sad, but I think there's an instinct of, we have a great story here. Why would we want to, like, muck around and mess it up by coming up with a different story when people love this story?
That's the book from Todd's wife, Lisa. I haven't finished it yet, but there's a lot of information in here, especially the let's roll part, where that's from the phone call that Lisa got from her husband before he crashed. And all she heard was the let's roll, and it was silence, just like the heavens were talking to her. Have you seen the book?
This is the role the government plays in times of stress, how they view the public. Can the public stand the truth? Or shouldn't we need a legend at this point. We need a really neat story of reacting against such a dastardly act as was happening. So it's really nice and convenient to think of the Beamer story, let's roll, and that becomes just like the Alamo. And it's just one of those legends, and I'm not saying that somebody's issued an order somewhere that says don't do any more with 93, it's right where it ought to be, and leave it alone. I don't think that's true, but I think there'll be a lot of pressure to let the legend stay where it is. I would think there's some inclination that way.